You know, it wasn't that long ago that the seasons kept their promises. Spring came, well, in springtime, not just whenever it fancied turning up. And the birds, my God, the birds, they followed a rhythm so steady, you could mark your calendar by them. First chiff-chaff in early April, swallows on the wires a week or two after, martins 5th of June. These binoculars don't lie. I can only see what I see, and the patterns are not the same. And it's not just an old codger losing his marbles and imagining it. I was reading in the RSPB magazine, swallows are arriving 15 days earlier than they were 50 years ago. And it's laid out in their records, they'd know that kind of stuff. There was a rhythm to the seasons, and the natural world's driven by those rhythms. The length of days, the changes in temperature, food appearing on time in spring. They need the right materials available to build a nest, the right berries or caterpillars or whatever to feed their chicks, so they can grow and thrive enough for the migration back south in the autumn. But now the seasons just don't do what they're supposed to anymore. They can't stand firm against a world that's tipping out of kilter. You get birds sensing it's warmer where they overwinter in Africa, say. They fly north to their feeding grounds. It was all timed to perfection. Now, with the spring starting earlier, the migrators arrive often before there's any nesting material or food available. Standing here, looking out over this patch of marsh here. Been coming here 40 years or more. It's the birds that tell me the truth about what's happening, far more honestly than any forecast. They arrive early or late, or sometimes not at all. I remember waiting for the willow warblers last spring. I barely shrugged off winter when there they were, weeks ahead of when they're due. I checked the dates I'd noted down in my old notebooks. "You're coming too early," I told them, but they weren't wrong. The world around them had changed. It's the springs that are shifting, warming, nudging everything forward like an impatient hand at their backs. The trouble comes if the rest of the world hasn't changed around them. They could be turning up here ready to breed with no food. A lot of the insects aren't even out and about yet, so what will they feed their chicks on? And autumn, my favourite season for migration, has stretched thin and strange. When I was younger, by October the skies felt emptier, quieter, a kind of peaceful exhale. Now I see swallows in the last days of the month, house martins still clinging to their nests in November. Even saw the late geese honking in their V-shaped skeins across the sky, heading south in late November. Now, they'd arrived early too, so they must barely have had time to draw breath down there in Africa before turning round and flying back north. It's as if Britain's warmth is whispering, "Stay a bit longer." I want to tell them not to trust it. That it's a fickle warmth, it's a trick of the times. Hell, if it gets any warmer, they'll be overwintering here and flying to the North Pole for summer. Hey, it's a strange time we're in. Then there are surprises, little egrets, great white egrets, birds I once drove to France to see when I was younger. I now see them pottering about the marshes and estuaries here, as if they've always belonged. And blackcaps in winter. First time I saw one on a frosty January morning, I thought I'd misread reality. Now they're regulars in the garden, bold as brass. Britain's turning Mediterranean, and we're all just pretending it's normal. I'd not be surprised if we start seeing flamingos or whatever. It's a world gone mad. But for every new face, there's other dear old friends missing, and that hollows me. I used to hear cuckoos every spring, their call echoing round the woods. Now some years I don't hear a single one. And nightingales, well, I can count on the fingers of one hand the times I've heard them in, well, years. It's not just numbers of birds, it's the whole rhythm of the countryside that's been upended. I watch these young birds trying to make sense of it all, trying to marry up what those printed charts and apps and migration forecasts are telling them with what they're seeing with their own eyes. I just want to say gently, migration used to be predictable. Some of them listen to an old bloke like me. Maybe it's because they can see what's happening, even in the short time they've been watching. Not totally like clockwork, but reliably enough that each spring felt like a reunion with old friends arriving right on time. Now it's a scramble. Some years you wake up when the trees are suddenly alive with everything all at once, like the birds panicked and rushed to crossing. Other years, nothing. Just silence and waiting. When I tell people climate change is real, I don't talk about graphs or politics. I talk about the blackbirds that never left, the warblers that came too soon, the seabirds starving off the coast because the fish they depend on have chased cooler waters north. I talk about how the seasons, those steady old guardians, have grown unsteady on their feet. I'm in my 60s now. I've seen enough springs to know when something's gone wrong. And if the birds, our best barometers, our truest storytellers, are confused, then we should be terrified. It's in our hands. And, I envy my leftist brother, my lefty brother. Got voted in as a Green Party council over there in the Cotswolds. I bet that was popular with the hedge fund yuppies who've been buying up all the villages there. He's all for taxing the rich to pay for better social support and the climate. And that all has an impact on my pensions. Maybe not as much as the hedge fellas, but it's important he's standing up for things. Maybe they're not able to change it all, but it's making a stand, and that counts. But still, I go out, binoculars around my neck, notebook in my pocket, I watch and I listen. And I keep faith with the migrants who still try to follow the routes written in their bones, even if the map beneath them is changing faster than they can fly. Because if there's one thing I've learned over the years, it's this. The birds may be uncertain, but they haven't given up. And neither should we.